All right, welcome back to season 4 of Get to the Joke. I am Mark Stoudemire, the host, and I'm here with one of my favorite comics who have a super honored to get to talk to today, Mr. Monroe Martin, living in New York City, but originally from Philadelphia. I got to know Monroe by watching him just slay on Last Comic Standing, become one of my favorites from that entire series. But he has been on many things like Comedy Central, NBC, Amazon Prime, and he is a regular at the renowned Comedy Cellar. So please welcome Mr. Monroe Martin. Hi, Monroe. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, what's going on, Mark? How you doing, man?
I,
Thanks for
I'm
having me.
no, I'm glad. I mean, we just saw each other in Hershey. I'm glad you survived, the trip out there and back.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited for you to be here today. I want to just kind of get started in just understanding a little bit about who you are. And I
hmm
think the easiest question that I like to get to know someone is, what does the average day look like? It doesn't have to be like a weekend where shows are involved, just the average, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the life of a comic. And you can go as much detail as you want to, or you can keep it high level. It's completely up to you. I'll get to the
I
heart
I
of it, though.
mean, I wish I was as organized as I would like to be, but my day pretty much it's the same, but then it has other elements that change. Like I try to get up, work out every morning. I wish that I can be like, I write jokes and all that shit, but most of my day goes to me like I wake up, I go for a run or a walk or walk my dog. I meditate. I've done that, and then most of the time it's just killing time into spots.
Okay. All right.
And in between, every once in a while, I'll have like a meeting, or I'm working on stuff too. So
Uh-huh.
I'll like try to like I said try. I have plenty of time, but I'll try to like get myself to like sit down and work on things and like better myself. But most of the time, it's just me trying to figure out life. You know what I mean? I wish I could be like,
Yeah.
oh, you're special, but it's not. It's just
Well,
me killing time until it's time for me to go on stage.
no, that's great. I mean, like what time do you get up in the morning? It sounds like you have a pretty decent routine where you work out, walk the dog, meditate. What time are you getting up after probably a
I
late night
get
of
up at
spots?
I get up at 7 a.m.,
Okay.
but that's really because my wife gets up at like 5 to leave the house, and then by the time she leaves in the house, I'm like, all right, she done made enough noise to the point where I'm up, you know?
That's probably on purpose to get you up.
Yeah.
I mean, can you kind of pull back the curtain a little bit? What kind of projects are you working on right now other than the stand up?
Just like some putting together unscripted ideas. I can't go into that detail, but
Okay.
trying to just work around the writer strike. Like the writer
Uh,
strike kind of made me go, oh, all right, well, even though the writers are on strike, the people who create non-scripted shows and all those things are still working. So
yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should start really sitting down and trying to develop those type of ideas and stuff like that.
Okay.
You
All
know?
right. Really cool. So I mentioned at the beginning, I got to know
Mm-hmm.
you and not really know you, but I got to see who you were from Last Comic Standing, and you were pretty
Mm-hmm.
new to stand up, right? Weren't you one of, I mean, I remember that was like a
Yeah, it
big
was like
target of
5
you.
years in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like five. I think I was like, yeah, 5 years in at that point.
Were you in Philly at the
Yeah.
time, or had you moved to New York by that point?
I had moved to New York at that point. I left Philly in 2010. That's
Okay.
when I moved to New York. Yeah.
Hi. I'm assuming if you're still watching at this point that you're enjoying the episode. If you like this episode and you want to see more, please do me a small favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is awesome. I love seeing subscribers go up. That means people are enjoying what I'm doing, which makes me feel good. So please do that if you're really liking this. And if you want to, check out my website, markstod.com. Please feel free to contact me on the website. I respond to every email. Every email I respond to. Leave a comment. And the thing, too, I get back to most of those as well. And that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Okay, yeah, we're gonna jump around
Yeah.
all about your life here today. We're not gonna have a
Yeah.
very
No, that's fine with
chronological
me. Yeah.
thing. But I wanted, so how did you get picked? Because this is when I think Last Comic Standing did it right. They got rid of the kind of goofy auditions that weren't even probably legit to begin with because they already knew who was
No, they
gonna be
still
booked.
did all the goofy auditions.
Oh,
They
they
still did
did?
all of
They just
that
didn't
stuff.
show it? Oh,
So
okay.
you had to audition to audition. So you had to audition to be on the. You had to send the tape,
Okay.
then get on the show. Hold on, let me try to remember the whole sequence. So it was submit a tape.
Mm-hmm.
Then if they like the tape, then they will fly you to LA to audition.
Okay.
Then you are and the audition's like 2 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
there's like and it's like hundreds of comics. There's hundreds and thousands of comics all staying in the same hotel. Um Kind of just like everybody's trying to mask their just nervousness and all that stuff. But you don't
Yeah.
see each other perform. Like it's all scheduled. It's all like, all right, Monroe, you got to be up there at 1 o'clock, and it's like maybe like even like 15 minutes away. So then there's a person that takes you to
Okay.
audition, and then you just audition, and then they send you on your way. Like it's
Okay.
literally like they don't even tell you that day if you got it. So I went up, auditioned, did what I could do. There's like two people in the room. Um, and then as I was flying back, I got the email saying that
Nice.
I got picked to actually do the televised audition.
Okay.
So then I landed, packed my things, then the next day flew back to LA and then had to do like the formal audition, which was in the televised one,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And then that was still similar where there's hundreds of comics, everybody's in a room, they got a camera in your face, and they're like, how do you feel? And I'm kind of good at like zoning out. Like that's the benefit of like having that foster care background where
Yeah.
it's like I'm used to being around a group, like a shitload of people at one
Hmm.
time. And then I used to being by myself.
Yeah.
So I know how to be alone in the crowd. So while everybody was like kind of like talking and putting on for the camera, I kind of just was like, I didn't even hide in the corner. I kind of just was like on my phone. I bought a Nintendo Switch, not a Nintendo Switch, a Nintendo DS. I was
Yeah.
playing that, and I was just like focused on my own energy, and I just focused on each performance. Like I didn't really try to like do the what do the judges want or
Yeah.
what does the show want because I got good information. Like maybe I got good information before my audition from I think she was just like a PA or a producer or something like that. And she told me, she was like, hey, I seen all the notes that they gave you on your set because your set has to be looked at by standards and practices, which is just lawyers and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I've seen all the notes that they gave you on your set, but it's really up to the judges and the crowd. So if you go up there and you kill and you do what you're supposed to do, they'll have no choice but to move you along. And I did that because
Yeah.
it was more because she kind of made me see the thing, which is just like, don't play to the judges, do
Hmm.
what you do, and
Hmm.
let them make that decision.
That's awesome. No, wait.
You know what I mean?
So did you? No, I know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. I've never been there,
So so
but
don't play
yeah,
to what the
don't.
show wants.
Yeah, just do your
The
thing.
judges had no idea. The judges
Yeah.
don't give a fuck. Like they're not that
Yeah.
behind the scenes. They're just somebody just knocks on their trailer door and
Yeah.
goes, Keenan, Roseanne, Pete, y'all ready to come out? Come on. We need you to sit here, put this makeup on. So they're not a part of the whole behind the scenes
Yeah.
thing like that. They pick the people based on what they just seen them do. And that was
Okay.
like good information that I got. And once she was like, yeah, don't play to them, don't play to the network, don't play to what these lawyers may want because they're not funny. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I just went out there and I did what I could do.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
Did the
I had a
judges
good
have?
time.
I mean, you did great, man. I mean, you're still like probably the most memorable person from that season, and
Oh,
you did,
thank
and
you,
you
man.
no problem. Did the judges get full say? Because that was the thing that came up in the past last comic standing, where the
Mm-hmm.
judges were kind of figureheads, and then but you see them going through the notebooks and picking people.
Mm-hmm.
Were they actually ones
Yeah.
that picked you, or was it the producers and stuff behind the scenes going,
I
Monroe?
think I think it was a mixture. I think it was the judges going, yeah, this is the guy,
Mhm.
this is who we like. And then now the network has to make a decision of like, all right, well, he already did that set. How much of that can we cut out? Because there's
Mhm.
a lot of pre-tape stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I that's just me assuming, but they'll probably make that decision of like, okay, well, they like him. He was funny. Let's just push him through and see what he can do on this round and stuff like
Nice.
that. So I think it was a shared um, responsibility.
Now, you had moved
I
to New York
yeah.
City. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say you moved to New York City because people kept saying, Monroe, you've done all you can here in Philadelphia. Go to New York, go to
Mm-hmm.
New York, go to New York. So when you submitted that tape, did you
Mm-hmm.
have an in by going to LA, or were you a
Uh,
nobody and they just were like, this guy's
I mean,
has
we're
it?
all nobodies
Uh,
until somebody's like, "Hey, yo,"
I was some of those people were doing it for like
somebody.
25 years. I forget the guy, like Rocky or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So some of them might have
Mm-hmm.
had connections with some people
Yeah,
that had decision to make. I don't know if you at the time would have been what, 26. You were still a kid. You were probably one of the youngest people.
yeah, yeah,
Did you have the?
yeah.
Did anyone kind of put your
So
submission tape on top versus on the bottom?
I don't think that was. I don't know about that. So there was a bunch of time in
Hmm.
between me moving to New York and getting it. Like I wanted to do Last Comic when I was living in Philly because Roy Wood Jr. had came through the
Hmm.
Laugh House, and he's like one of my favorite comics.
Hmm.
And he came to the Laugh House to headline, and I remember just like watching him and saying he was headlining while he was
Yeah.
on Last Comic Standard. Like
Yeah.
his set was airing while he was on stage, and I was like, I gotta figure out how to do that show. Like this dude is
Yeah.
hilarious, and you see somebody and you're like, that's whatever this person is doing. I gotta figure out how to do that.
Hmm.
So that was like I moved to New York 2010, and I guess Last Comic Standard was 2014.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hmm.
Yeah, I think 2014. So in between that time, it was more of just like the grind, hitting open mics, making a
Hmm.
name for yourself and stuff. I always try to explain the journey of comedy as like you're just running for like office, right?
Yeah.
Like you're campaigning. You're
Yeah.
like every time you get on stage and you rock in front of like a not even a big audience, but just an audience like not shitty shows because that's shitty shows. There's plenty of shitty shows in New York, and I don't want to be like I don't want like a comic to listen to this and be like, even if no one's there, you got to give 100%. Like you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what rooms you can fuck around in, and then what
Hmm.
rooms you have to kill in. Because
Hmm.
the rooms that you have to kill in are the ones where they take that information and then they start spreading it like, hey, this person is funny. I seen this dude over here, and that's that, the third. So just you understand that and how to move. So the last comic standing thing, I didn't know anything about it. My roommate had got it. Like she just texted me. She just hit me up that day and was like, "Hey, I just got an audition for last comic standing." I was like, "Oh shit, congrats!" I didn't even know they were auditioning for anybody.
Yeah.
So then I had spoke to my managers at the time, and I was like, "Hey, uh, I would like to audition for Last Comic. I heard they was bringing it back and stuff like that." And they were like, "Oh, we don't really think it'll be a good fit for that show. They're not really looking for like comics like you and this, that, and the third. That's not a really good show." And then like I didn't take it negatively because
Yeah.
he like stretched me to say something.
Yeah.
I didn't take it negatively. I just kind of looked. I just kind of felt like they looked down on the show. They kind of
Uh,
didn't. They looked at the previous seasons and then
mhm.
probably were like, "All right, how many people from those previous seasons are household names?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, a lot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Logic
Yeah.
Schlesinger, freaking Roy Wood,
Yeah.
Felipe Esperanza. Like I can name
Yeah.
so many people that made me go, "Oh well, they're still working off of that goddamn show." So I'm glad that even when they were like, "We don't think you should submit," we're not. They they were like, "Oh, we'll submit you if you want," but I know they didn't
Yeah.
because I did a follow up and I was like, "Hey, did y'all submit me?" And it was like, "Yeah, we did." And then I had I don't want to. I'm trying to carefully word this.
Yeah.
So I got cool. Now I'm cool with Wanda. But before that, I didn't really know Wanda's, but I knew one of Wanda's like closest friends in comedy,
Hmm.
Keith. And then he asked me, he was like, "Hey, Dum Dum, you auditioning for Last Comic Standing?" And I was like, "Oh, I was told they didn't want me." Like I told, they sent me, and then my tape got sent in, and then it was just like, they they'll they don't really want to like move you along, like audition you. And then he was like, "Yeah, they said that." And then he texts Wanda like, "Hey, did y'all look at Dum Dum's tape?" And she went, "They never sent the tape. I never got a tape from him, but tell him to send the tape." So then I sent my tape directly to Keith, and then he sent it to her. And then like 2 days later, then my managers were like, "Hey, we got an email saying that they actually liked your tape." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So then even just doing it, like my agent still like even the night of the performance, they were still like, "Oh man, don't get your hopes up too high. If you don't make it, this show, blah blah blah, and this, that, and the third." And then you go up there, you do what you do, and then they go, "Man, yeah, we can probably figure out some things, man. You don't want to get, you don't even want to win. You just want to be top five because this, that, and the third." And you now their eyes are open, and now
Yeah.
they're starting to go, "Oh shit, maybe this is the right move for him." You know?
I'm hoping those are your
So
ex-managers now.
yeah, yeah. But we're still
um,
cool. They're my homies though.
so did you so did you get the Roy Wood treatment afterwards? Because did you after you got done, did
Absolutely not. I still got a long ways to go, man.
but
I
did
still
you
got a
start
long ways to go.
so like you were
I
fine?
started headlining immediately
Did you
after that.
have headline material? Were you doing 45 after like everyone in the world seeing
I
you on TV?
I knew how to figure it out because
Okay.
prior to moving, so when I before I moved to New York, one of my best friends, he got a college agent and I would open up for him.
Hmm.
And then I ended up getting the same college agent and she would just lace me with shows and stuff like that. So I'm doing hours in 60-minute sets in front of
Hmm.
college kids, and that's harder than doing an hour in front of adults because adults don't give a fuck what you say. Kids do. They bitch and moan about everything because they don't really understand that much about the world. They only have their
Hmm.
perception. So they hear certain words or hurt certain things. So you got to learn how to maneuver. And I'm close to their age, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So at that moment, I still felt like I was like being judged by my peers. So a couple of years of doing that, like I learned how to figure it out up
Hmm.
there and like move around on stage and maneuver it and be like, all right, well, if I got 30 minutes, where do I put the first 10? And then I'll move this 10 over here, and then I'll move and I'll close on this 10. So then I'll just have two spots where I can dick around for another 10 minutes, maybe do
Hmm.
crowd work, maybe, improv when a bit that worked and just tag the fuck out of it until they're done talking. So I had
Hmm.
to learn a lot on my toes,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, dude, that's really interesting to like think about just your career kind of got like a steroid boost and you
Mm-hmm.
were like on fire for
Yeah.
like this pocket of time, but then you've actually been able to maintain and sustain that career,
Yeah.
like a
I
lot
don't
of
feel like it.
well, I think like a
You
lot of
said
the people
on
from last
fire. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
well, I'm just thinking like a lot of people from last comics. I think what your managers were maybe saying was like, hey, there's like people fizzle out, but like, dude, you're still killing it. I mean, you're a Comedy
Mm-hmm.
Cellar comic, and that is the
Mm-hmm.
holy grail of a room for comedians.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've been on TV, like you've done. I mean, you think about what there's a million comics that probably exist in this country, maybe even more. And
Mm-hmm.
what maybe 5% are in your
Yeah.
category right now? It's about 500
Yeah.
comics that's had the credits you have. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, man, like you're tour. I mean, you told me you're just out like were you at Netherlands
Yeah.
or something like that
Well,
recently
I'm
or
going to the
no
Netherlands
Netherlands? Yeah.
October. Yeah, I'm going late September, early
Yeah.
October through early October, but I was in London and that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're you're a full-time
Mm,
comic and you can make a
yeah.
living, a substantial living on that. So that's no,
Hmm.
that's totally amazing, man.
Yeah.
Um
Thank you, man.
and think
Yeah,
about
that was
like
because of the last comic. That
yeah,
the last comic got me into comedy clubs and it got my rate up at colleges. Because
yeah.
when you first start doing college, shit is like $800, and they're like,
Yeah.
that you also got to pay for your hotel and your flight, and you got
Yeah.
to pay your agent commission out of that. And it's like, so I'm doing the show for like $300, you know?
Nah, but let me ask you this, like, because like there's kind of like fraternity or whatever with comedians, were people like JB Smoove or Roseanne or Russell Peters or even
Mm-hmm.
Keenan Ivory Wayans, who's not really a comic but has a he's the godfather of
Mm-hmm.
comedy movies. Would
Yeah.
you did any of them hit you up after the show being like, yo, let me take you on the road with me or anything like that?
Hit me up afterwards? No,
Yeah.
but during definitely gave me good words of encouragement and tell me to keep doing what I'm doing. And,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I feel like the opener thing, I wasn't around them long enough to really
Okay.
build that rapport up with them,
Okay.
because the behind the scenes thing it's called hurry up and wait, meaning
Yeah.
they wake you up at 6 a.m., corral you in this room, like everybody got to be up,
Yeah.
eat breakfast, and now you're in this conference room from like 8 o'clock to 4 p.m. and no one has talked to you and told you anything. The judges are in a
Hmm.
completely different part of the building. They come in later, so you
Yeah,
never really had a time to
I
like
get it.
talk to these people. I developed my relationship with Wanda after the fact.
Oh,
Like
okay.
after the show was over, and she was like, "Oh, you're funny" and stuff like that. She told me to call her Aunt Wanda, and yeah, she's also been very encouraging, you know.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, think
never.
about.
Now I opened up for Wanda once. I had a good
Mhm.
time. It was at the Ocean in Atlantic City.
Oh, wow.
But she like yeah, she has her opener. A lot of
Yeah.
people who do theaters and stuff,
Yeah.
who's on her level, they
Hmm.
have their people.
Oh,
They've
okay.
known their people for decades, you
Hmm.
know?
So but it's, I guess, like, again, I feel like I don't know if you're trying to be humble or modest, but like I look at you as somebody, I look at you in awe and what you've been able to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish, especially when I hear your story and I hear about the fact that, like, you talk about growing up in foster care, being in 15 different houses in 14 years, knowing that you'll never be adopted because your mother never wanted to give up the
Mm-hmm.
biological rights. And then also, I think I heard you talk about one time in an interview where women have a much better rate of going through the system a lot easier than men did. And so you think
Mm-hmm.
about, a lot of boys end up going through foster care and going to prison or homeless. So you think
Mm-hmm.
about
Yep.
the odds you've overcome.
Mm-hmm.
It is huge. Foster, you talk a lot about a foster care in your set, and it
Yeah.
does come from a place of, like, I'm just going to be real about,
Yeah.
what this, it's not pretty. You're not going to get a pretty picture. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Nothing was roses, as much as they paint commercials
Mm-hmm.
on TV and the
Mm-hmm.
state's all about it. Like, it's a rough go around. I think you mentioned, like, most of the people that took you in look to see, like, they got
Yeah.
$500 as a check, and then
Mm-hmm.
$100 they try to give you 100 of
Yeah.
it so they could
Yeah.
profit off your head being there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how long did it take you to finesse talking about being a foster kid in your set without having people go, oh, or, like, do groanings or ohs or something like that? Because I don't
Yeah.
know initially how your first set went, but how
Mm-hmm.
long did it take for people from all over the
It,
place, all diverse audiences, to get on your level with your jokes?
mm, I started talking about foster care because of Keith. He was definitely
We're
the
talking about Keith
one that
Robinson.
Keith Robinson. That's
Okay.
Wanda's
Okay.
best friend too, and yeah, he gave me great advice when I moved to New York. I met him maybe in like 2011, 2012,
Hmm.
and the advice that he was telling me, he was like, "Hey, man," because I was growing up there with jokes and stuff, and he was like, "Jokes, your jokes are funny. No, but no one's going to remember any of that shit you were saying. They're just going to know you were funny."
Hmm.
And he was like, that's just not the goal. The goal should have you. People should leave the show knowing more about you, because then if they know more about you, then they spread the word. They can tell people how funny you are. They'll do the marketing. If
Hmm.
you just if you just bring yourself into your material. And
Hmm.
I was like, well, I don't got shit to talk about. I'm young. I'm like, I haven't really done much with my life. And he was what was your relationship with your mom and dad like? And I was like, well, I grew up in foster care, so I don't really have like that type of relationship. He's like, why don't you talk about that? He was like, that's better than whatever the fuck you can come up with. He was like, that life. He's like, I would rather hear you talk about growing up in foster care, dealing with your mom now, and all that stuff. He's like, because then that allows you to talk about other shit, because now people know you. They
Hmm.
know where you come from, where you're coming from when you present these bits versus just presenting bits. And then they got to figure out if you're an asshole or not, or how charming you are and shit like
Yeah.
that. So he told me that in like 2011 or 12. And then I started working on it immediately, bombing a lot. A lot of my friends were like, man, like I remember them going, oh, you just gonna keep talking about this, making the audience sad. And then I was like, this is this is what it takes to be the great. Like
Yeah.
I understood the concept of like bombing now to
Hmm.
kill later. I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm figuring out my footing, I'm figuring out my wording, I'm reading the room on how they react to stuff.
Hmm.
I'm actively figuring it out while the set is going bad. And then once it started working, it started clicking. I just seen everything open up, and he was right. And then I watched some other friends be like, "Oh, so when you talk about the serious stuff, what's your technique?" You're like, "Bomb, motherfucker. That's the technique.
Yeah.
You bomb until you bomb and you listen. You just go, okay,
Hmm.
what didn't they like? All right, maybe I didn't explain this clearly." I
Hmm.
think most of the time when you bomb, it's just that they don't understand what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Hmm. Yeah. No, I do. And
Yeah,
do when you're talking about the bombing, a lot of how did so bombing very I mean, what they say, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes.
absolutely.
What coming up, I mean, if you can recall coming back up in that first 5 years before you made it onto NBC,
Hmm.
you probably want to make a good impression. You probably want
Yeah.
to like, hey, how many times can you realistically bomb without like your
Hmm.
brain like I'm a failure. None of these comics are
Yeah.
talking to me. No one's asked me to do
Hmm.
spots.
Hmm.
What was your kind of methodology to like where to bomb? When do you do something on a show if you're only doing open
Yeah.
mics and then that kind of thing. Especially when it comes to foster care, because those jokes are they're
Hmm.
great jokes, and it's taking I can tell
Yeah.
it's taking you a long time to get there. But like,
Hmm.
what
Thank you.
what?
Um, that that was just more of so of like you're just figuring out which
Hmm.
rooms are good for what.
Hmm.
So the rooms where I'm like, ain't nobody here. It's
Hmm.
more comics than anything,
Hmm.
and there's no JFL scouts. There's no one there. There's
Okay.
no one to me. Like you can just look at the room and you go, all right, not talking down to the people, like the people on the show, but you can go, all right, none of these people are at these clubs or doing this. Everybody's just trying to
Hmm.
figure it out. I can fucking bomb here. I don't care. It's not gonna do much, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then on the big shows, I would just sandwich it in the middle.
Okay.
You know, like you open up with a joke that you know works, and then once they get to know you a little bit, then you slip that in. But that's when I was like, well, I think I got to do the reverse. So once I got my first laugh
Hmm.
with the foster care stuff, like the first hard laugh, I just moved all that material up front. Like
Yeah.
that's how I started my show. Because now I'm like, all right, I got two. It took at least like a year to get a funny 5 minutes about growing up in foster care, mom being on drugs, dad
Hmm.
doing this, X, Y, and Z. This is the
Hmm.
type of parents I live with. And it wasn't even like a through line. It was more of like, here's a joke about this, here's a joke about this, here's a joke about this, here's a joke about these
Hmm.
elements of foster care. And then once I kind of put them up front, then I was like, all right, well now let me kind of stretch it out and
Yeah.
figure out the other shit that goes in the middle. But yeah, living in New York is the perfect place for bombing though.
Yeah.
It's the perfect place to just you can get up like not five. Yeah, you can get up 5 times a night if you wanted to, but that's like more young comics do that shit.
Yeah.
Like now, like
Yeah.
now I'm like man, like twice or whatever. If you got a thought in
Hmm.
your head and you want to work some shit out,
Hmm.
but at that time when I was just hitting the the produced shows and the mics and any spots I can get, I was getting up like 5 times a night,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I was able to like really tighten some material and stuff like that. But I would say it took me a solid year to get the foster care material to the point where people didn't people didn't think I was sad because the audience
Yeah.
just wants to know you're fine and
Yeah.
you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I feel like everybody tries to play the oh,
Yeah.
but we all love fucking Carnage. We all love hearing stories about hardship. But as long as we know the person's okay,
Yeah.
as long as we know at the end they're fine, they made it out, we will listen to that fucked up story. And then if you make it funny, then it's to them, they're like, oh shit, this is great. So I'm talking about mom being on drugs and all that stuff. And once I started getting a laugh, I watched the audience go from, oh shit, oh wow, damn, my mom was on that shit too, or oh yeah, my dad wasn't around when I was younger, or I had a cousin in foster care. So you just kind of watch people connect with it, you know.
Yeah.
And then that was to me, that was the most important thing too. I learned about connection because first time I not even the first time I started performing, but for a good while until I moved to New York, I you would just tell your jokes at the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just go up there. I'm saying you, but I would. I would
Yeah,
go up there.
that's right.
I had funny jokes for the type of comic I was at the time, but I wasn't talking to them. I was talking at them. So my approach had nothing to do with what was happening in the room. You know, I would just open with a joke, and the joke wouldn't even be like, "Hey, everybody, how are you?" Like, even though some people go, don't say hi to the audience. Why not? If you're about to talk to them for 20 minutes to an hour, get comfortable. Let them know you're a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So how do you kind of let the audience know then that you're fine, especially back in those days when you probably
let
weren't fine?
smile,
Okay, okay,
smile,
okay.
smile in, um, a little chuckle, and have as much fun and be as silly as possible when I'm telling these things. Like you've seen how I talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I've
Mm-hmm.
done, yeah, I did your show,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very like I don't know. I'm trying to develop this level of comfort on stage where I'm like, it's a barbecue. That's
Mm-hmm.
all it is. Everybody got food, everybody got drinks. I'm Uncle Ro, the holding court at a barbecue. If I treat it like that, it's just conversation.
Okay.
It's not me being like joke. The jokes are in there.
Mm-hmm.
I work the jokes out. Now that what conversation can I have with these people? And if you just frame it that you don't have to say you're okay, but in your tone of voice and the way that you talk about people and you talk about the thing, they'll pick up on the sense. Like when I go, I don't like old people, even though the room was full of old people. I'm like, I fucking hate old people, and I'm standing with a smile on my face, and they're like, oh, why do you hate old people? And they don't take me that serious. They're not
Yeah.
taking me serious. Like, what you mean you hate old people? Now they're just kind of like, we want to hear. We want to hear why
Mm-hmm.
you hate old people. And then I go, they're fucked up. This, that, and the third, and I make the jokes in the audience, and I feel them go, oh yeah, my grandma's an asshole too. You know, like even though I'm talking about old foster parents, like they can
Yeah.
still go, yeah, I got an aunt that pinched me too much,
Mm-hmm.
or smacked me upside the head and shit like that. So yeah,
Well,
just trying to have as much fun on stage as possible, and that energy just it's infectious.
yeah, I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned one time in an interview that you like to, if you get an idea, you want to talk it on stage first, see if the people
Mm-hmm.
find it, like get a pulse on the audience, and then you will write it. Can you
Mm-hmm.
do that with your foster care stuff, or do you have to be more
I have
deliberate?
to.
Okay,
I
okay.
have to because my writing voice and my speaking voice are two different things. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to talk to the audience like I'm talking to you, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't write that way.
Okay.
You know,
How do you write? Just
I
like
write.
bullets?
Yeah, more so. I can still write a joke out completely, but the tone and everything is what gives it that layer. Is what makes
Mm-hmm.
that shit funnier. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
write down the bullet points, but until I say them, it's not really that funny.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
at
No,
least
I totally get it.
to me, until I say it, until I'm able to like see how people react, and then go, all right, well, what am I missing? What do I need to say, or what am I not saying,
Mm-hmm.
or what am I saying that maybe is making them kind of do this?
Yeah.
And you can only figure that out once you say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like talking to a chick, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
theorize the shit you going to say to her,
Uh-huh.
but until you say it, and then you get her reaction, then you go, all right, this is where the
Mm-hmm.
game begins. This is where having game comes in. And the
Okay.
same thing with comedy. If I like I'll go up there and I have the idea, and then I'm gonna go, all right, I'm gonna say it, and then I figure it out because that's where the comedy comes from. The comedy
Yeah.
comes from me maneuvering around these ums and haws and these I don't know. Like people come to comedy clubs with their arms folded.
Yeah.
I see that and I go, all right, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
How can I win them over? Like all that shit is going on in your head
Mm-hmm.
as you're still trying to like put together these jokes and shit. But I write, but I just don't write first. I make a
Yeah.
note first.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to count that as writing, I'll write down a certain thing like if I'm talking about foster care and right now and I'm like kind of talking about my mom and dad's relationship with them. It was my mom being drugs and my dad being a drug addict, but I just wrote that down. I just wrote down the bullet point
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I like a thought popped in my head, and it was something stupid about this their relationship should have worked out. Like I just went, oh, my parents shouldn't have got divorced because drug addict and drug dealer seems
Mm-hmm.
like it's a perfect match. And
Mm-hmm.
then I just wrote that, and then I went on stage and I said it, and then I just let the rest try to flow through me. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah.
So you don't have when you just have like a nugget, right? The one that you just gave with your mom
Mm,
and dad being a drug dealer and a drug addict, and you go up there and you say it, and let's
mm,
say it doesn't hit right away.
mm.
Do you start freaking out and start trying to go back to
No.
old material, or how do you pulse that crowd? Like, how do you get over the roadblock of like, okay, this thing I wrote down, the one thing I wanted to say,
Mm-hmm.
no one got it, and now I want to keep
Yeah.
going down this road.
Yeah. I gotta look them up. There's this. I think my first time in Montreal when I did New Faces, I went to
Mm-hmm.
a keynote. I went to a keynote thing. You've been to Montreal, right? Or you know about
I
Montreal?
know of Montreal, yeah.
You know Montreal. So a week long festival. But there they do the. I think like if not the first night, I think it's the night where like New Faces and all that shit has happened. They
Yeah.
do like a keynote thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they do awards and all that stuff. But they have like someone come out talk, and it was a comic. I think his name is Andy Kindler. Can I look him
Yeah.
up?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I
No,
just
it
want to
is Andy
make
Kindler. He
sure.
does like the state of comedy every year, correct? He's like the state of
Yeah,
com.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's the guy from
yeah.
for the audience here. He's the Bob's Burgers voice of the mortician. And you probably
Really?
recognize. Yeah, he's the
Oh,
mortician
I didn't
on
know that.
Bob's Burgers. Yeah. And for those who don't know, we're talking about Montreal's Just for Laugh Festival, which is the
Mm-hmm.
annual gathering of the most talented comics in all of North America. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So,
Keep going with that.
so I watched. I was watching him, and this is a room full of industry and audience members. So
Mm-hmm.
people who love comedy for different reasons. Some love
Mm-hmm.
it because it pays their bills.
Mm-hmm.
Some love it because they just like, yo, I love these comics. And it's a mixed reaction. So you get the industry doesn't laugh unless their boss is there,
Mm-hmm.
or unless it's somebody that they want to hire. Then they're like, you know, they act like the
Yeah.
motherfucker's the biggest person in the world. And I was watching him navigate this crowd, and
Mhm,
I was watching go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But whenever it went, but the fun times is when it went down, when he would say something and it didn't work.
mhm,
And instead of panicking, he would just address the fact that it didn't work, but didn't address it in this, oh, that joke bombed, blah, blah, blah. He would just kind of expand on what he was talking about a little bit more, or make fun of himself in this.
mhm.
Like he just he took those down moments to be like, this is where the comedy is. Like, this is how I prove that I'm funny. And it was just like watching. It was like watching parkour. It's like watching somebody jump from like a high, fucking like
It's a great
a
analogy.
high surface. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, he about to fucking break his leg or something. And then he just fucking rolls and then jumps somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it was like 20 minutes of that. And
Yeah.
I forgot what other comic I was with, and I was like, that's what I want to get like that with the fucking. It was like he couldn't bomb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like you
I know
knew
what you
the
mean.
jokes he intended to work weren't working the way he wanted them to, but just the way he was maneuvering and fucking just I don't know, just moving through the set was like, oh, that's the skill. That's when
Yeah.
skill comes in, and that's when skill and personality and all that shit comes together. And you just watch them win over this room,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
I like that. I like that example. I like the analogy of parkour too, where it's like
yeah.
you don't know the next jump you're gonna do. You just kind
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm.
pray that it's gonna work
Yeah,
out. So
yeah.
I want to talk about how you connect with people because I'm trying to. I was when I was looking at stuff that you had done. You had mentioned in past interviews that foster care really helped you understand people more,
Mm,
which probably parlays well with stand-up comedy when you're like, I got to read a room. You know, I can't just go up there
mm.
and do. I would say, my first question to you is how malleable is your act? How flexible is your act? Do you have an act and you write out your
Mm-hmm,
50 jokes and that's the 50 you're going to tell in that order, or is it like
mm-hmm.
I will zig and zag as needed because I'm that in tune
Yeah,
with the crowd.
I'm more of a zig and zag, and it's not about um being in tune. It's more of just not trying to be rigid. Because that
Mm-hmm.
was also a note that Keith gave me once I started like working and like moving up. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, take your time up there." He was
Yeah.
like, "You know the jokes are gonna work, so present them as such.
Mm-hmm.
Like, start. Don't rush to it. Don't be like a little kid. Like, look, here. Like, he's like they." You won their approval already if you think so.
Mm-hmm.
If you go up there and they're like, hey, and you have poise, it's like you have their approval. But if you come to them searching for like, hey, what about this joke? What about do you like me now? So once he gave me that information, like take your time, enjoy yourself, all that stuff translate. Everything that's in your head kind of comes out in the way you talk, in the way you hold yourself, and audiences can read that. They can see that. So I don't try to be that malleable where I'll just toss the whole set out the door.
Mm-hmm.
But I go up there with some sort of game plan. Game plan. It's like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like yeah, I was like your show. I had my book up there with me. I really wasn't looking at the pages. I just had it there as like a thing where I'm like, all right, if I need to look at it, I will.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like every time I went to look at the book, someone would say something or a thought would pop in my head, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, well, let me move this here. Like I switch jokes up on the spot anyway. Like sometimes I'll take a punchline of a joke, and then I'll move that punchline to another joke because sometimes you're like, oh, that fits
Mm-hmm.
that situation better for this audience.
Yeah.
But I try not to switch up who I am for the audience because that just fucks up bookability.
Okay.
If I, you know what I mean? Because if
Yeah.
I'm switching up who I am for
Mm-hmm.
every audience, and work comes from word of mouth and comes from people going, "Yo, this guy's funny. He talks about this," and then I get there and they're like, and I'm doing something different. They're like, "This ain't the motherfucker they sent me. Like, this isn't the same guy.
Yeah.
Why is he different here? What happened?" So I always try to be the same person no matter where I go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes a
Yeah.
ton of sense. I want to talk about the way you understand people and when you and what you meant by
Mm-hmm.
that, because when I was going and listening to stuff you had done, it seems that like, and just I think it's mostly because of the environment you in, you didn't make close relationships in the foster care system. It sounds like you didn't keep in touch with any of the foster parents or any of the
I
other
moved
foster
around too
kids.
much.
Yeah, I'm just like, but
Yeah.
even like kids in summer camp click after 3 months, you know what I mean, and keep in touch. But it's like,
Yeah, but that's because they still got like stability
yeah, that's
at
true.
home. They know they're going back
Um,
to their summer camp.
yeah.
They're gonna go. They're gonna leave their summer camp, and go home until it's time to go back to the summer camp. There's people I've never seen again.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? So there's people who were like in my life, and then they're in my life with no introduction,
mhm.
and then they're out of my life with no closure.
Yeah,
So you get used to that, and you're just like, all right, well, I'm not hung up on those two things. I'm
yeah,
not really. I don't get hung up on how like relationships end. You know,
yeah.
and my wife kind of hates that because I'm still friends with. I'm not friends with people I date, but like if I see somebody that I dated, I'm like, hey, what's up? Are you talking to her? It's like, yeah, I don't get. It's no bad blood. Like I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck. I get done. It's over. You know.
Hilarious in New York
So
City. You're still running into your exes too. I've well, I mean, like it wasn't lost on me. You did an interview and you had mentioned like that you had a foster, I guess, foster mother. It sounded like she was a lot older, so I don't know how they describe it if she's really old, but a woman
old as
named
shit.
yeah, a woman named
Can
Miss
I curse?
Pearl who
Oh,
kind of yeah, you can curse. There's no rules
oh
on this.
yeah.
A woman named Miss Pearl who really kind of saw you and kind of like, hey, I'm going to try to set Monroe up as best as I can. It's what it sounded like from the interview. But then you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned like, I don't know if she's alive. So like, obviously you did not keep in contact with Miss Pearl.
Yeah, man.
So is it just something where the foster care system has left such a bad taste in your mouth where anyone that came through, I'm sure there was even some of the
Mm-hmm.
kids, even when you were in that big kind of like, I forget, like the 180 acre thing, people that
Group
you
home. Yeah.
actually connected with, that you were just like,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's just a part of my life that I'm just, it's good for material, but that's all it's good for. And I don't want to have any reminders of it. Is that a true statement?
No, I ain't no true statement. I like how you said, "Is that a true statement?" It's like, of course, that's not a true statement. No, I wouldn't say that I'm not friends with anybody. because I still like I one of my mentors who I was cool with
Is this Stephanie?
when I was yeah. Damn, you
Yeah.
know too many people. What are you like? What's it? Norwal? The comedy Norwal? You know what I'm talking about? You know
I
that
mean,
guy?
if you're gonna sit here and give me
Uh,
your time, I want to make sure I give my time and properly research. Yeah, yeah. Stephanie was one of your like, I guess like
yeah, and that's still my
handlers.
homie.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, no,
yeah,
she was just so I was at an after school program and they call them coaches because they're not
yeah.
social workers, but they're
Mm-hmm.
there to kind of help you with life skills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the people who I just like me and her just clicked. So even when I aged out at 21,
Mm-hmm.
we just kept in contact and hung out and she would
Mm-hmm.
come to the comedy clubs and she just would have my back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also some relationships just fizzle out because like my foster parents were like when I was in their house, they were like 70. So you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like after a while, I moved to New York. I'm gone for a year. They could be dead. They don't got cell phones. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
So
so,
like
it's
someone
hard to
like Miss
keep.
Pearl never made an active thing to
Well, we
reach out
hung
to
out
you.
until I moved to New York. Like
Okay.
I every weekend, and not every weekend, but like maybe like 2 weekends out of a month, I would go over there and like we would have dinner and just talk
Mm-hmm.
shit and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. But you can kind of tell she was getting old. Like
Okay.
like her she had a kid that passed away, and
Oh
the
wow.
dog that lived at the house when I was there that passed away. So you can kind of tell she was just like
Mm-hmm.
on her way out.
Yeah. I
So
get
I
it.
didn't really, yeah, I didn't hear nothing about no funeral or nothing. But yeah, like that, I maintained that relationship at least until like I think my first year in New York, and
Mm-hmm.
then after that, I really didn't come to Philly that often because I was like, one of my friends were like, "Yo, if you moved to New York to pursue comedy, why the fuck you always here?" And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Because there was a time I was in New York, like
Yeah.
at least 50% of the time. I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
Philly, 50% of the time, doing that. Let me go say hi to the people
Yeah.
I say that mean so much. And like most of them, the good ones were like, hey man, get the fuck out of here. Go do you.
Yeah.
Go focus on you. Like you know where I'll be.
Yeah.
And then you got some people who's like, don't forget about me. But the ones who want you to be great are like, look, like we'll figure this out. We'll figure out something, but go do this thing. Go do that. And Miss Pearl was like one of those people
Okay.
where once I told her I was doing comedy, she was like, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, how is it? And I was telling her about it and stuff like that, like telling her things. And she was like, well, it sounds like you need to spend most of your time up there and do what you got to do to
Yeah.
figure it out. And I was like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it also isn't lost on me. Kind of going back through. I'm sorry, if I'm looking over here, I'm looking
Mm.
at my notes.
No, do things.
And I see that it seems that you have connected very well with women throughout your life versus men
Mm.
because I see things like even
Is
your
that a
mother.
true statement?
I don't know. Is that a true statement?
I don't think so. Most of my friends are male.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, when I hear you talk about people in interviews, it's your
Mm.
sister, or it's Stephanie, or it's your wife, or even your mother. You say you've
Mm.
kept in contact with. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm trying, like, is it just because of the foster care system and I don't know, like, what is it where you didn't have like how, you never? I think someone even asked you. I forget what interview it was, and I apologize
Mm.
to the person who did it. Mentioned like, did you not get friends that you keep in touch with out of foster care? And you're like, no, I mean, like there were friends like in
Yeah.
the periphery, like maybe friends of these people
Mm.
that you live with that you became friends with, but it was like
Mm.
not at all. But can you kind of explain to me,
Well,
someone
like
who's not in
in
the
the
system, like
yeah, like
why that's not like that?
I got my homies who I met
Mhm.
when I was in foster care, but they weren't foster kids. Like I
Yeah,
don't have any friends that I lived like any friends that were like, oh, this was my foster brother,
yeah.
or we were in the same group home. Like I don't have any of those because
Can I ask like
like those people
why?
just because a lot of people when people go, yo, if you're in foster care, you're either dead, jail, or homeless. That's true.
Oh wow.
Like a lot of people who go through the system in Philly,
Hmm.
they just get if they don't protect themselves, meaning if they're not setting up some sort of life after foster care, like once
Hmm.
the system is done with you at 21. At
Hmm.
21, it's hey, appreciate it. Um, but you can't stay at these homes no more unless one of the foster moms is cool with that.
Hmm.
So, like a lot of those guys, like I don't want to. I'm not speaking. I'm not talking about anybody in specific,
Hmm.
in particular, but a lot of people are like in situations where I'm like, you can't see them. They're in
Hmm.
jail. They probably passed away. They're probably homeless or something
Hmm.
like that. You know. And but my friends that I met while I was in foster care, we still best friends to this day.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? One of
Yeah.
my boys moved in New York first, and that's why I moved because he
Okay.
moved because he's in advertising, and
Hmm.
he moved up here, and I would visit him, and I'm like, this is where the fuck I need to be,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot more women in foster care, meaning like that help out. There's not a lot of foster dads. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of even social workers. The majority of social workers are women.
Okay.
It's just, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know why, but it's just a female dominated space.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So you're gonna meet a lot more. Yeah, you just, all my foster parents, there were women. I had two foster homes that had men in the
Hmm.
house. Most of my social workers were women. I had one male social worker. But mentors and all that stuff, and the people who like worked with me on the day to day were women.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
it wasn't lost on me in one interview you mentioned that you were you be like you noticed that you were funny and got attention for being funny because of foster care. Like you wanted these people to like you. You
Mhm.
know, you wanted the people
Mhm.
that were seeing you to like you.
Yeah.
Do you think inherently now that you have built this skill set, even unconsciously, that now you can
Mm.
go into a room with people that you're only going to know for them for an hour and make them really like you because you have those
Yeah.
skills built in from foster care versus someone like
But
myself
that's
who
the
didn't build the
thing. Yeah.
system? Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. That was the thing that foster care has given me. It's
Hmm.
where a lot of people build. I, I don't want to say a lot of people, but I feel like a lot of people are uncomfortable meeting someone the first time, and then like it takes a lot of things just to have a conversation for them. Like they
Hmm.
got to know them through somebody. Like I know people who only date people like they're like, oh, this is a friend. I
Hmm.
dated this person because this is their friend. Like I'm not that person. My whole life has been a room full of strangers. We introduce ourselves. We do a share circle and talk about what we've been through. So
Hmm.
I'm comfortable with that.
Do, do
Like
you like
from
that
young.
though, or do you feel like you've missed out on some of the things? Like, do you like having these kind of transactional relationships? You know, besides your wife, like
Well,
transactional relationships, or do you feel
I don't
like,
have transactional relationships now because like most of the people that I hang out with, like I've been in New York for some years now,
okay,
so we kind of all know each other. It's just like the newer comics who I don't know that well.
yeah,
Like there's some who I know, and there's some who I'm like I don't know. But the comics that I do know now, it's just like if I'm in a room, I'm usually around comics that I did open mics and stuff with. And then when it's the industry shit, if you're in a party,
hmm,
I mean, not 9 times out of 10, but at least 6 times out of 10, you're there because an invite. So you're going to know somebody, and
yeah,
they're not going to introduce you to somebody. So it's
hmm.
a lot more easier than it was in foster care because foster care was just about sharing. It was just trauma porn. Every set, I remember it used to be like every Saturday we used to have these little groups where you had to wake up at 8 in the morning and then you go down Center City and then all the foster parents would get together and then we would just sit in the room and then everybody would talk about their week and the difficulties they dealt with in the week and some tips and stuff to help everybody get over. So you just go through all that growing up. You think that's how people talk, and then
Yeah,
they don't. A lot of
hmm,
people don't share shit. So when you listen to people and then you remember like a nugget and you share something about yourself, then they're like, "Oh shit, this person is cool. This
yeah,
person's cool as hell." And it's not even it's, I don't even know if it's like a thing I do to. It's just how I operate. It's just like if I'm in a room and I don't know anybody, I need to leave that room at least knowing a couple people.
yeah. I like that.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a real social person. I doubt many
But
people. Yeah,
what we in comedy for if we ain't gonna
I
be
know.
social?
I get it. No, I get it. I was just,
You know,
yeah, but I'm sure you can, if I say like comics that have issues with social connections or whatever, I'm sure you can probably think of
but a
five
lot of the
just by
jobs
saying,
come from,
yeah.
but the jobs come from being social. The jobs come from your skill set and then your ability to just how likable you are.
Hmm.
Just because most of the time you're on set, like let's say you're on, like let's just use a movie. You're on
Hmm.
set for 18 hours a day. I'm pretty sure people are thinking, can I tolerate this person for 18 hours?
Yeah.
Like, does their skill outweigh how awkward or how much shit I gotta put into making them feel comfortable so we can get the thing we need out of them?
Yeah.
And I think that goes into it. I think people um build relationships like that. They go, oh, like that's how comics get road work, right?
Is that
Like,
how you brought Gio? You and Gio, we're talking about Gio Perez, who
yeah,
was fantastic this past weekend. Is that
yeah.
how
I met Gio.
you
Yeah,
guys were friends outside of comedy? So, okay.
yeah, yeah. I met Gio. I met Gio through another comic, one of my best friends in comedy, and he kept bringing him around, and he's like, "He cool, man. He cool,
Hmm.
man." And then I just talked to him, and I was just asking him about his life and stuff, and he shared and he told me about himself. So the next time that I was chilling, he was the same exact person. Like, he came in the
Yeah.
green room at the stand, and he was just chilling, and the conversations were cool, and he's not one of those people that have to fucking be the center of attention. Like, he knows how the
Hmm.
hang works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, add to the hang and all that shit. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, you wanna come roll? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. It's like, yo, can I be around this person?
I like it.
You
Yeah.
know?
No, you're dead on. You're dead to rights on that, dude, for sure.
Yeah,
You
but
got
that's
it,
why
especially when you're taking a
I'm
3 hour
just
trek out
social
to
because of
Hershey.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
gotta be social.
dude, you have. I feel like it wasn't luck that made you a success story from foster care, where you're saying like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the odds are. It sounds like eight out of 10 boys doesn't find success in the foster care system, where you're probably
Mm-hmm.
one of those few.
Yeah.
You end up going to
Mm-hmm.
community college, and
Yes.
at 21 you decided to just jump into stand up full time. You have like this
Mm-hmm.
very it's very
22. Sorry.
22.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, I thought you said like, hey, 21, I aged out, and that's when I started comedy. Okay, I
Yeah.
apologize.
No. So I started at 20. I started at 22, but I didn't go full time until I moved to New York.
Oh,
I
I
went
see.
full time because
So you mean you did not work any
the
other jobs in New York besides since you've been
yeah,
in New York, just
yep.
full time stand up?
I would
Wow.
do. I would do. You would do like. I would do like. Trying to think. Joyelle, there's a comic Joyelle. We used to pass out flyers for Metro PCS, but not really. We used to just sit in her car and watch The Wire, and that was for a couple of months when I first moved here. Another one, I got fired from dog walking. It was like the universe didn't want me to have a regular job. Like, it was just like, figure that shit out.
Yeah.
So I was just asked to open up for comics. I had the college shit happening, so all that helped me figure out how to really make this a living.
Yeah.
And also, I looked at it like, if I can take a job at McDonald's, like at the end of, like, if you work at McDonald's, what are you making? Like fucking 50,
15 an
not
hour.
50, but like 15 an hour.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, you're making $43,000 and shit like that.
Hmm.
I was like, I can figure that out. I'm like, I can
Yeah.
probably supplement a McDonald's income. I can
Hmm.
struggle like that.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm willing to fucking bust my ass to work and flip burgers and barely make ends meet, then I can do the same with this thing.
Yeah.
I can run around for like $200 and like figure out how to get that here, because that's how much your check is going to be at McDonald's. You know.
Yeah.
So I made that decision when I moved here because um, I knew a lot of comics who moved to New York from Philly and they couldn't really find a job, so they moved back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this is the job.
Yeah.
This is the job. You
Yeah.
know?
So were you in dire straits when you first moved to New York then? I mean,
Hell yeah.
okay. Like
Hell
what was
yeah.
what was the situation like when you first moved to New
Well,
York?
it's dire for you, not for me. I was already used to living under the conditions.
Please explain.
So when I first moved to New York, I was living on my homie's couch. Not even a couch. It was a fucking recliner chair. And I was paying him rent.
And you're
Can
six
you come
five,
up
what,
with
like 230, right?
yo sitting like this, sleeping like I'm on a flight, yo.
Yeah.
Um, I was living out of 18-gallon bins. Like I had like three 18-gallon bins with my clothes and shit in it, all my belongings and stuff. And life before that was kind of similar. Like I didn't always have my own room every foster home I went to.
Hmm.
Sometimes they wouldn't have space, so you had to sleep on the cot or you slept on the couch or whatever. Like there, like a lot of shit gets through the system. As much
Hmm.
as they like try to be intrusive in the system, where they're like, "Oh, we're going to make sure you got enough food in your fridge and stuff." There are people who didn't have shit. Where I'm like, "How the fuck did I end up in this place?" So I was already comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like I spent, like even when I was younger and I was living with my mom, we would sleep on the floor. We would sleep at cousins' houses, sleep in the tub. You would just sleep where you can. So being an adult and then chasing this, I was like, well, now I'm doing this for a purpose. I can be uncomfortable because it's the journey to something bigger. It's the
Hmm.
journey to a better life. It's the part of the dream.
Yeah.
So that wasn't dire for me, but that's why I'm like, yeah, I slept on couches. I fucking lived in a hostel for a little bit where they like I had like people stealing my socks and shit, my socks and drawers and all that. Yeah, man.
Okay. Was it bet? Was it what experience? What I mean, like I hate to belabor the foster care point, but I'm like, I always want to find out. Like, I had Chanel Ali on here on this podcast before, and
Oh yeah, I
she,
fuck with Chanel. I just
yeah,
was with her yesterday.
oh yeah, she's fantastic.
No.
She will dabble about foster care, but she won't
Mm,
hang in there like you do when she talks about it,
mm,
even socially, like when I was talking to
yeah.
her. And you described going to this group home, and when you're describing things like they wake you up and communal showers, I'm like, this just seems like a more relaxed prison setting. I don't know if Monroe's even making those connections. Um, what, I mean, kind of, you talk about like, did you, without, so you went to foster care. Would you
mm.
have rather been with your mother during those times, or would you have like, hey,
I,
the foster care is, it's better than where I was.
mm. As a there was an age up until a certain age, I would say
Hmm.
yes. When I would say I went in the foster care system at 7,
Hmm.
and then I had the opportunity to live with my mom again at 16. But from 7 to at least 15, I went from 7 to at least like, yeah, 14, 15. It's like, yeah, you want to be with your mom and all
Hmm.
that stuff. You don't really understand the situation. Like, I understood the situation. I understood that she had her problems and stuff, but you're just like,
Hmm.
you're in your mind as a little kid, you're like, well, it'll be fine. Everything will work itself out. And at 16, I was like, that's not how life works.
Hmm.
Like, like people, sometimes people are who they are, and you just gotta love them for who they are, and you just accept certain situations. But at 16, that's when I was like, oh, I can't live with my mom, and the
Hmm.
option was there. The
Hmm.
option was available because I was supposed to age out of the system at 18,
Hmm.
and then they started the reunification process where I was like, now and I'm able to like go visit my mom at her crib and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But it was just the dynamic was off. And then just I was listening to the things she was saying, and I was like, but she was talking about rules and regulations and all this stuff, and I'm like, that can't work because I don't know you that way. Like I
Yeah.
don't know you as a paternal person. I don't know
Hmm.
you as like that type of mom. So for me to just you fall in line with this world that I'm like, I don't know you as that person. Like I
Hmm.
know you as this one thing, and now I have to act like that person doesn't exist. And I didn't really see myself in that really surviving in that situation and us having a good relationship. We still got a good relationship now.
Yeah.
I'm her only boy. She
Okay.
she loves me. She you know what I mean? But I'm glad I made that decision. I stayed in foster care until 21 because of that.
Yeah.
So when they asked me, they was like, "Hey, do you want to go live back with your mom, or there's another program, there's another option where you can interview for supervised independent living, and if you get in, they'll give you your own apartment. And you just got to go through these classes, but the chances are slim." And I was like, "Well, if this if this idea of the living with my mom was the thing that I wanted, but now it's presented to me and I can tell that it's not going to work, that I might as well take my chance with this fucking thing over here, even if they say that I may not get it. I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
at least I'll shoot my shot. I shot my shot. I interviewed and got it. And that was one of the places where they don't really have a lot of men. They don't really have a lot of boys. It's more for like not pregnant, but women and children who are
Something.
like, yeah, and they get in there in college and stuff like that. So they're trying to help them, and they don't really help men.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, we will help you get on your feet and get you an apartment until you get your shit together. It was very little. It was very few dudes there, but I got in. I would say I utilized the shit as best as I could, but I, you know,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I hear you. No, I mean, what's your relationship with your mother today? Is it maternal,
yeah,
or is it friends? Is it
yeah.
peers, mentor?
We're friends.
Okay.
Yeah, we're friends. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's weird. It's like one of those things where you're like, my mom doesn't know about this life. There's not much she can tell me about
Mm-hmm.
life. Like her, everything she can, anything she can teach me, it's from her. It's from her past. It's all
Yeah.
actions,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like her actions and her and my life is more of a. It's more of the thing of like, is it? I'm trying to word it right. So the fact that she fucked up and like she went through the shit that she went through, that's enough for me to
Mm-hmm.
be like, I know what not to do
Mm-hmm.
because I am the outcome. I
Mm-hmm.
am the outcome of like not following your dreams, getting addicted to drugs, not really having a plan. Like I'm here because of that shit. So she don't really have to mentor me and give me information because my life is that. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
No, that
So we
makes
just
sense.
have a friendship. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a friendship, but we don't have like that mom and that like however you are
Yeah.
with your mom, where you
Yeah.
go and you give your mom a kiss and you lay your head on your lap. We don't have that. That's
So
not
how often do you
yeah,
see your
I don't
mom a
have
year
that.
then? Can I ask you?
Before the pandemic, I would see her at least a couple times
Okay.
a year. But
Okay.
now the pandemic happened. Well, the pandemic is over, so I'm trying
No,
to
I
go
get
there
it.
a little bit more and stuff. But
I
yeah,
get it.
me and my mom cool as shit. It's just not like a like that mama son
Yeah.
relationship where I'm gonna go stay with my mom for the weekend. We're just gonna go through. It's not that,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that though.
Has she seen you do stand up either live or on television? She has.
Yeah, yeah, and support surprisingly, the person who had the most trouble was my dad because he didn't like that I was making jokes about my
Interesting.
mom and our life and all that stuff. But my mom's a trooper. My
Yeah.
mom is the funniest. My mom and my sister. I have two
Hmm.
sisters. But my mom and my older sister, she's not older than me, but she's like the oldest one.
Hmm.
Some motherfuckers hilarious. Like they don't, but they're hilarious in the way where either they're unaware
Hmm.
that the shit they saying is like fucking funny and wrong, or they know and they just really know how to play aloof. They just know
Hmm.
how to really like sit back and play the idiot in the room.
Yeah. I'm
I don't
surprised.
think it's that.
I
I don't
I'm
think it's
surprised
the
to hear
latter.
your dad had an issue with your act, and I don't know how much you want to share. I mean, I think you're very open about your dad being
Mm,
abusive towards your mom.
mm.
Um, but is it because he's embarrassed of his own actions? Does he just feel like, hey, I'm not in your life, Monroe, so can you just keep me out of your act? Like, why is he reaching out to you about jokes about him? And what's his
I don't
angle?
know.
Okay.
I didn't even entertain it.
Okay.
I didn't even entertain it because the person that I don't want to. Yeah, it don't matter. His opinion doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So I didn't even entertain it. Like he told me that, and then I kind of just was like, okay. And then I didn't even go to argue. Like I can do what I want. I was like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
going to put the energy into even entertaining it and making you think your opinion matters. I'm gonna just keep it moving.
Okay.
Like his opinion doesn't matter because, like, at least I had a constant relationship with my mom.
Mom.
Like I seen her every.
Hmm.
I would see her like once a month. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like she would come to the group home, or we would have supervised visits and stuff like that. So she was more constant in my life. Where he was like one of my friends. This is my friend's joke. This isn't my joke, but he has a joke about his dad and how his dad was like a character on a sitcom where they just pop
Mm-hmm.
in and be, hey everybody, like like a recurrent, like a special guest star.
Yeah.
Like they come in just to get the ratings up,
Yeah.
and that's how my dad was. Like my
Okay.
dad only came through like one. If he said he was coming through, he wouldn't. He would
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like pop up and then inconvenience your entire day and what you
Mm.
got planned. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
And I've only seen him like I if my dad walked past me today, I would accidentally walk past him. I know we
Oh,
look alike,
yeah.
but I don't know what he really looks like. You know what I mean?
I get it.
So
When's the
that's
last
why
time
his
you saw your
opinion
dad?
don't matter.
Yeah.
It was like right before the pandemic. Like
Okay.
maybe as it was not Saul. Because
Okay.
when I saw my dad, when did Jermaine? Let me look. I actually tell you right now.
Go ahead. You're fine.
No, let me look it up.
Maybe while you're looking that up, if I can ask you, um, your ability when I hear you tell a joke, you have this very innate, and I don't know how much of it is planned or on purpose, that joke is as tight as it can be. I mean, that joke is a
Yeah.
setup, punchline, tag, 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 analogy that's hilarious, misdirection, ba ba
Mm-hmm.
da ba da ba da.
Yeah.
You I think we kind of established earlier. You find something, you observe something, you may make a
Mm-hmm.
note in your phone, you give it on
Yeah.
stage, audience kind of gives you at least a little bit for you to be like, all right, this is worth writing down. You do a couple bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
After
Yeah.
the fact, where I'm seeing the joke, when I saw a joke like I did this weekend, are you doing a deliberate process of like, all right, here's my joke, and I'm going to start cutting out the fat, or do you do it all on stage? I just want to know, like, your joke
I
setup
do
is so
that.
tight.
So thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Okay.
So last time I seen my dad, 2015,
Okay.
for Jermaine Fowler's taping, because I tell
Okay.
that story about
Yes.
reconnecting with my dad
Mm-hmm.
and seeing him. So that was the last time I saw him physically.
Mm-hmm.
2019, I think the pandemic started in 2019, like the
Yeah.
end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
That's the last correspondence,
I see.
like of like talking, and then I just
Okay.
kind of was like, I don't give a fuck about this. But
Sorry.
with the
I know I asked
yeah,
you a question about the joke writing. Let's put
so
that. I'm gonna put a
yeah.
pin on that for right now.
Oh, I was
If
going back to that. Yeah.
if your father were to pass away, would you regret anything left unsaid, or do you feel you will reach out eventually to him and just kind of like air out anything that hasn't been unsaid?
Damn, you trying to get deep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's. I is it. Does it make sense to say I have no anger. I feel nothing towards him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no love or like, you could have did this or you should have did that. Like I don't feel any of that. I just kind of like, all right, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So it's
Like I
okay
have no
if that's the
emotion.
last time you
Yeah, like
talked to
if
him in 2019.
yeah,
Okay.
like I don't
Okay.
want it to sound fucked up, but if
No,
he
it's just
died,
yeah.
I would be sad because it's a human life. But I wouldn't be
Yeah.
sad because I felt like I missed out on the
Yeah.
opportunity of having a dad. I'm 30, like I'm 37 now. He had
Yeah.
plenty of opportunities to figure it out.
No, I
He could have been
totally
like,
understand
"Yo, let's go see a game" or
that.
whatever. So I was like, so like I know that some like I've had people go, well, why don't you reach out to him? Like, because I didn't give birth to the
Yeah,
motherfucker.
that's
That's
so true.
why. Like I
Yeah.
didn't produce them. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not my responsibility to build that relationship. It's my
Yeah.
responsibility to make sure that the effects of that relationship doesn't fuck up the relationship. Like if I have a kid and I have a son,
Hmm.
like my job is to make sure that that shit that I went through with my parents doesn't fall on my kids. But
Hmm.
it's not my responsibility to build a relationship with them.
I'm 100%, 100%.
You know?
What so I'm sorry. The
And I know
question.
that probably sounds fucked up.
No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I think Chanel said the same thing because her dad,
Yeah.
not abusive, but just out of the picture
Mm-hmm.
and try to get
Yeah.
back in and just didn't work out. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of very similar to your experience.
Yeah.
But so the question I had asked you was, It sounds like from what your process is, it's very informal, meaning that writing jokes is not part of your daily
Hmm.
routine. We established at the very top of this conversation.
Hmm.
It
I'm
seems like
trying though.
no, that's all right. I mean, you obviously have something that
Yeah.
works very well. I mean, it's I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not one to critique anything that you're doing. You're
Hmm.
obviously what you're doing is working. Um,
Hmm.
but how when you go up there and I'm hearing you talk, and if a lot of it's not written down, a lot of it's just high level bullet points. How do you
Hmm.
know when to cut out the fat? Is it just reps on stage? Is that the secret sauce to
It's
Monroe Martin?
the reps and listening. I record pretty much all my sets.
Okay.
Audio.
Hmm.
And now that fucking everybody's doing clips and shit, now I'm like, all right, now I gotta run around with a fucking camera and stuff.
Yeah.
But audio, yeah, I record on my watch and then
Hmm.
I just listen in my downtime. So
Okay.
I think that actually counts as writing.
Yeah, I would count that.
Yeah,
It's
I would count that
deliberate.
as writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I listen to it and then I'll go, all right, well, this part is where the law happened and it sounds like they're confused or they just didn't like that part. So let me remove that. I'll just do editing that way.
Okay.
You know?
And you can just do that without writing it down. Just mean like, all right, so you're sitting on a Tuesday, you're like, yeah, that three
Yeah,
minutes
because
did not
here's the
work out. And then
problem
Friday
with
happens, you're like, don't do that. Don't do that 3 minutes.
the problem with writing for me. I can't read nothing of this shit. This shit is not
Wow,
legible.
that's pretty okay. That's not at all what I thought your writing was going to be. I thought it was going to be like 6 words on a page, and it's like actually written.
No, but I can't write none of it. I can't read this. These are jokes and ideas and thoughts and
But it's like in
I
sentence
have to,
form. It looks like a
but
book
look,
almost.
but it ain't. I go, so here it is. This is like, I have silly fears. I'm afraid of, I have like I have silly fears. I'm afraid of losing my mind and not know it. Meaning like, I'm afraid that I will be like crazy, but I'm just in my world and people just let me be crazy. Cause I have
Hmm.
fucking uncles that was like that, where he would walk around with like, a robe on, like just walk the streets with like a bathrobe on and slippers. And then people just let him do that. And they would speak to him like a regular dude, but then as a kid, they're like, he fucking crazy. Don't you go too close to him. He crazy. But I'm like, but does he know that? Y'all just treating him normal.
Yeah.
So all of that, like what I just said to you, all I wrote was I didn't even write the uncle stuff down. I just wrote like, oh, I just don't want to not know that I'm losing my fucking mind. But
So
I'll write down.
I
So
want
what
to.
I did, and this,
Yeah.
so all this comes from I said it on stage, and then after I say it, I'll write it down. But the problem is I can't read none of that handwriting.
Are
So
you
then
running
this
it
is
down
what
right after you
happens.
say it? So you're at the stand, you have a joke,
Yeah,
bang, it hits. Are you going right to that green room, just running it down, or do you wait to go home and listen to it 3 days later?
I just listen to it because
Damn,
then
dude.
yeah, because then you shit falls, you run out of things. So then that's why I'm like, you got the book and you write just to have it, but I think all my good shit or all the things that I like do is in
Hmm.
audio. It's like
Yeah,
little clips and stuff like that.
yeah.
Because typing, I have too many damn notes, like half written notes. Whereas like I had a thought, then I write the bullet point down, then I do
Mhm.
it on stage, and when I go to look for it again, I'm like, where the fuck is the thing? So now, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
But
mean, I'll plug
yeah,
and
I wish I could. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I don't I want to be respectful of your time. I want to tidy up here soon. I do have just a few more questions for you, but I do want to plug your
All right.
Instagram, which is at Monroe Martin with triple I for the third. And that is also on Twitter. You can see Monroe Martin's clips there and TikTok, and you can go to his website. It has all that information there as well. Um,
Mm.
but tell me about TikTok, dude. And I want to
Oh, I don't know shit about TikTok.
what
I think
what
I'm
you
shadow
do
banned.
it. Well, I was saying like or Instagram, whatever, Facebook Reels,
Uh,
Instagram, whatever you want to say
mm-hmm,
about it, because
mm-hmm,
part of the allure of what Monroe Martin brings to the table more so than any comic I can think of is the ability for us to not know who the hell you are until you get on that stage, and then us to
mm-hmm,
really know you when you get off that stage.
mm-hmm.
I mean, is Instagram just a means to an end, or does that kill your soul every time you post a
I
clip?
don't I don't know how to really use it and work it, but I guess my job is to figure it out because it's a tool. It's a
Mhm.
tool that gets people to the shows.
Is that
You
proven?
know,
Do people say, I saw you on TikTok, dude, I'm coming to your show? Okay.
I was in Houston. It's not a TikTok. TikTok. If someone say they saw me on TikTok, they lying because I got
Okay.
shadow banned. I got shadow banned at like 16,000 followers.
Okay.
Like I went from like having like a lot of views to my shit only having like 1,000 views per fucking video. So when I was in Houston, I was doing the Riot Comedy Club, and there were
Mhm.
people there because they saw me, and then there was like a couple that walked by, and it was like, wait, you're Monroe, right? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, of course I'm Monroe. My face is right there. But they were like, oh, you're performing tonight? And I'm like, yeah. Like, aren't you here for the show? And it's like, no, we're just because there's a bar
Yeah.
like not around the corner, but literally like over
Mhm.
because it's connected to a bar. And I'm like, oh, so y'all not gonna y'all came for the show? It's like, no, we just know your stuff because we've seen you on Instagram. We've seen your stuff pop on Instagram. We watched your stuff on YouTube. And I'm
Mhm.
like, holy shit, that actually worked. But the things that I know that they saw on YouTube are long form. Like the
Okay.
story that Comedy Central posted was
Mhm.
long form.
Mhm.
I think I am that type of comic where maybe you have to see me long form. I think in order to get a sense of who I am and the type of stuff that I talk about, you
Mhm.
got to see at least 3 minutes
Yeah.
to see the build up and then the punchline, 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 punchline. But to really go, oh shit, this is the type of comedy. In 1 minute, I think I can get a joke off in 1 minute, but to get to know me, it's
Mhm.
gonna be some time.
Yeah.
So I just got to figure that part out. I think YouTube would be the best for me
Mhm.
because you can post short videos to lead them to longer videos.
Awesome. Now a lot of your jokes are about, so these questions, I've been writing questions over here
Mm.
during your thing, not to
Oh,
interrupt
you
you.
think?
Now these are going to be all over the place now. Do you, a lot of your jokes are about your experience, things that you've observed, things that you've seen in real life, or your even the uncle joke, or like things that you
Mm,
experienced. Do you look at the current environment and see what are the hot topics and try to write jokes from
mm,
them, like Roe versus Wade being appealed, or
yeah,
school shootings, or the
mm,
Ukraine war? Are those things
yeah.
that you try to write jokes for, just to kind of stay in that
Yeah,
mode? Okay.
if I have an opinion on it,
Okay.
if I have like an actual point of view and opinion on it, yes. But I'm not going to talk about it just to talk about it because
Okay.
I, some people don't give a fuck. Meaning, like some audience members, they come and they know what's going on in the world
Mhm.
and they want to escape it and they want to hear something outside of that shit.
Mhm.
So I think that's where I shine most. Like I can
Okay.
talk about that stuff, and I think that's a skill that not you, but comics should have, especially if they want to get writing jobs and stuff. You got to
Mhm.
learn how to talk about topical things and make it
Yeah.
funny in your voice.
Yeah.
You know,
Cool. My next off the wall question is:
off the wall.
would you ever consider getting your own foster kid, like adopting a foster kid, knowing that
Yeah,
what
but
it's
I
like
want
to
to
be one?
be. Yeah, no, I would do that, but I want to be. I wouldn't do the foster. I would just adopt them because
Yeah,
the
that's what I meant.
foster
Adopt
thing.
a foster.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I want to. I gotta get my finances up. I don't want to fucking because I don't want that kid to have like a shitty life. Like I'm gonna take
Mhm.
you from your shitty life and then bring you into this struggle. So
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I'm like set up where this kid can get like good schooling and you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it.
'Cause, yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
want to set
how
them
I
up for
look at it.
success. Yeah.
Mhm. I
And
would
that
get an old. I think I would get an older foster kid anyway. Not too old, but I would probably get like
not a
maybe like
50-year-old foster kid.
yeah, like a 7, 6 year old or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I love that you're part of the Comedy Cellar. That's just
hmm
amazing. Can you give me your Comedy Cellar origin story?
but
How did you?
I'm more of a stand person. I'm at the
Okay.
stand the most.
All
But
right.
I
Well,
got in the Comedy Cellar from hanging. I was in the comedy. I got in the Comedy Cellar. That was like one of the first comedy clubs I hung out at because of Keith. Because
can you just
when
hang out at the Comedy Cellar? I feel like they would just ruggle the riffraff open micers out of the room or
not
whatever.
everybody, I'm not a no, you can't.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would say I was very blessed. Me
Okay.
and my group of friends
Hmm.
were very blessed. I don't know what it was. It could have been right timing or something, but we got a privilege that a lot of people didn't. Like they called this surround sound. Because we would go in there, we would be loud. Like
Yeah.
none of us worked there. When I tell you, we were hanging out there. None of us
who
worked there.
who are
None of
these
us.
people you're
It
talking
was
about?
me. It was me, Derek Gaines, Reggie Conquest, Dave Temple, Chloe Hilliard, Amina Imani. Who else? I'm trying to think. I think it was Nico too. But yeah,
Okay.
Nico, Minion Hart. There's a bunch of people, and we
Anthony
would just.
Moore, another Philly guy, went to New York.
Anthony came up later though.
Oh, okay, okay.
Anthony is like Anthony
Love
came
Anthony.
up.
Yeah.
No, I love Anthony too. Anthony came up a lot later after we kind of
Okay.
already got
In
in
there.
and
Okay. But
and
Reggie
got moved and
Conquest.
stuff.
The only one I've recognized is Reggie Conquest on that list.
Reggie came up.
Yeah.
Reggie came up in the perfect time.
Mhm.
I think me and Derek were already in New York for May. Well, Derek moved to New York before me, so
Okay.
I was probably in New York for like 2 years when Reggie started coming up. So he just fit. He just came at the right time. But we
Mhm.
used to be at the cellar. We splitting. It's like 7 people splitting an order of 12 wings. Everybody get a wing deal, and we would just be loud and making fun of each other. We would like have snapping sessions with like Godfrey and all of those people.
Yeah.
Bill Burr. We never got to snap on Bill Burr because the way it was set up, it was funny. We was open micers and Keith was like, "Yeah, I got my Philly crew," and we were all fans. So he
Yeah.
was like, "Get them, Philly crew." We were just like, it's so nice to meet you. It's an honor. And he's like, "What the fuck? I thought they were some heavy hitters." And we're like, "It's an honor to meet
How did
you,
that get you
Christopher."
how'd they get you past at the cellar though? Did they want just like
So so just hanging out, I was just hanging out.
Mhm.
I was a part of the environment. I wasn't the asshole.
Okay.
You know, you talk to other comics like Bobby Kelly and all of them, and then I guess they see you enough. So then when you start to when they see me at other clubs and see me perform and stuff like that, and I think
Mhm.
they kind of like, oh, all right, it's kind of funny,
Okay.
right? And then I remember this is how this happened. So the actual passing took like 3 years, maybe 4 years. Sorry, I got shit up here.
What are you looking at right now?
Uh,
You keep looking up that way. What is that?
because I got my Fallon thing. I got like a frame of like the
Okay.
Fallon cue card, but it says the date on it, and it says 2015. And I look at the 2015 because it helps me remember where I
Okay.
was and the
I
things that
see.
I had to do before that.
Mhm.
So if I did Fallon in 2015, I got Packed at the Cellar in 2014,
Okay.
and that was I was just sitting at the back table, and SD was like, "What's your avails?" And I'm like, "What?" She was like, "Send me your avails." And I was like, "Okay." And there's no audition or nothing.
Really?
But it was
Wow.
just
That's impressive.
because of hanging out and a lot of comics and the bigger comics, especially Keith. I would say Keith was the main guy pushing for me. Keith
Okay.
Robinson
Yeah.
was like, this is the Philly crew. These are the dudes. These are the
Mhm.
people you need to like start working.
Mhm.
And we all didn't get in at the same time, but it was kind of like it was me, then it was Derek, then it was Chloe. But it was
Mhm.
like me 2000, yeah, it'd be like me 2014, then
Can
Derek was
you
2015, then
can you
Chloe was
show
like 2016.
I'm sorry, can you show your webcam? Can I see what you're looking at? I just want to see this thing.
Yeah,
That's
so
everybody. That's sick,
I'm
dude.
trying to, this
I
is
love that.
the Fallon thing. This was after Last Comic Standing. Can you see that?
Yeah,
You
I
see
see
this?
that.
Oh,
What's
Last
that?
Comic Standing.
What do you mean that's
This
from
is
Last Comic Standing? How'd that come from Last Comic
so
Standing?
so I was when I did Last Comic Standing, there was somebody who was the artist. I hope he's still alive too. He was
Yeah.
sick with that shit. This is
Yeah.
pen. This is pencil. He did
That
this
looked
by
great.
hand.
I
That was
mean,
fucking amazing.
yeah.
He was like, "Yo, man, I'm a fan of yours. I would love to send you a portrait that I drew of you." And I'm like, "Sure." And he
Yeah.
sent me, and I had to get that shit framed. This is the
Yeah.
first portrait anybody ever
I
made
love
of
it,
me
dude.
off of what I do.
Yeah.
And then this other thing, this right here was like my first write up
Right up.
in
That's awesome.
Time Out in New York. So I had to get that framed.
I
Sorry.
love it, dude. No, you're fine. You're
So I
fine,
had to
dude.
get that framed. And then that right there, this is my wife's side of the office. That's why it's so messy. And then that was my first time headlining a comedy club in New York.
That's awesome, man.
So I
I
I
like
try to
it.
have things. Oh shit. Yeah,
All right.
like this. But
That's sick,
yeah,
dude.
But yeah, people get past the cellar in different ways. Not everybody gets
Yeah.
past the same way. Some people audition. Some people get the tap and be like,
Yeah.
hey, you know.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, I've
but
had,
you
yeah.
gotta be in that. You gotta be in the. You still gotta be there.
Yeah.
You know
Can't
what
be
I
a
mean? Like
stranger. Yeah.
yeah, like you get like my thing was I was like, how am I gonna work here if I'm
Hmm.
a stranger and no one knows me? So I gotta hang out, and we would just hang out, and they were kicking us out. When I tell you they would kick us out. They're like, oh, yeah, I gotta go. Like we
Uh,
went through all that shit. Like I know I'm making it sound like it happened like that, but that was fucking like 3 years of just getting like kicked out,
yeah.
getting talked down to, but it was worth it.
Dude, I'm
Because
so
once
happy
they
for you.
fuck with you, they fuck with you. Like
Yeah.
it was like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
there was like a
I
time
don't know
where
what
we
you
were
mean, but I'll
standing.
pretend like I do.
Oh, oh, okay. All right. So
If only. If
like,
only, Monroe.
so we were doing that. We were doing the all my friends when we're
Yeah.
still like trying to just figure this shit out, which we still are trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
But we were trying to do stand up for diversity, and we were standing outside. And this is like first year they had it. This is like the only year they had it at the Comedy Cellar. We we're standing outside, and then the manager Liz, she
Hmm.
seen it. It was like fucking 5 a.m. and she walks past the line, and then she goes, "What the fuck are y'all doing here?" And we're like, "Oh, we want to perform." She's like, "Come inside, get your dumb asses inside." And she fed us. We ate breakfast and everything. And then when it was our time to perform, we just went downstairs. So that yeah, they like I still fuck with that club, even though I'm at
Nice.
the stand more. But they definitely take care of the people
Awesome.
they fuck with. So
Cool.
that's what I mean. I'm like, when you're in there and they fuck with you, they fuck with you.
Awesome. Well, Monroe, I'm so happy that you came on today. I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate our time together and you just answering my questions and being open. Please,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, follow Monroe Martin on Instagram at Monroe Martin the third, or that's three eyes, and Twitter,
The
and check him
third.
out. The
Mm-hmm.
third, yep, and check him out on just Google Monroe Martin. You'll find all his stuff there
Mm-hmm.
as well. Monroe, thank you so much for being here today.
Yo, thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you. You take care.
All right.
I'll say
You
goodbye
too.
properly after I end the recording here.